Hello, everyone. Good evening. Hello, please, can you all hear me?
Hello, yes, I can.
Thank you. For a moment, I thought nobody was here. We have just a few people online, and so let's give ourselves maybe about 5 minutes and then we can officially start. Good evening to all of you, and welcome to another edition of the webinars by WorldLink HR. Today, we have a wonderful guest speaker here, and I'm going to read her bio. Our guest speaker for today is Miss Elizabeth Ewudiwa. She is an HR professional writer, social advocate, public speaker, and founder of Bettinelli Foundation. Miss Elizabeth Ewudiwa is a certified global human resource HR professional, writer, public speaker, and social advocate. Over the past decade, Miss Elizabeth has supported the health technology industry across Africa, Europe, and Asia to achieve success through people with a wide range of expertise, including learning and development, organizational development and transformation, quality management systems, and strategic management. As a social advocate, she is the founder of Bettinelli Foundation, an NGO providing learning interventions for children in the rural communities of Ghana. She is also the author of Woman in Me, a poetry collection of the story of an African woman from childhood to adulthood. Elizabeth is a Forbes BLK member, certified sexual and gender-based violence instructor, and diplomatic fellow of the Federation of International Gender and Human Rights, New York. Passionate about human resource development, education, women and children empowerment, diversity, and decent work and growth, she constantly works with organizations or individuals in the space. She was the 17th valedictorian of Central University with a record-breaking final GPA of 4.0 out of 4.0. Youth panelist at the Road Rio de Janeiro Sustainability Development Conference, delegate of the African Policy Dialogue on the role of the private sector in employment creation by Include, Ghana Netherlands Business and Cultural Council. Miss Elizabeth Ewudiwa has got some publications under her sleeves, and today she's going to discuss one of those with us. The publications include Bridging the Gap Between Learning and Earning, The Way Forward for Student Employability, HR as Marketers and Building a Professional Training Culture, a Q&A with two experts by the Business and Financial Times, then The Woman in Me. Today we have Ms. Ewudiwa to discuss with us Bridging the Gap Between Learning and Earning, the way forward for student employability. And this happened to be the first time ever she's going to discuss that with young people, and she's excited to do that. Ms. Ewudiwa, please, if you are on the webinar, please, you may have the platform. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Linda. Just want to be sure, can you guys see me and can you hear me?
Yes, we can see your beautiful face, madam.
Awesome. Right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Linda. Yeah, that was a very long introduction. I actually thought that it was going to be a bridge, but it was great. It was great hearing some of those things. I would say I should say that Linda is my, what I say, my, yeah, I don't know what's okay. I should start with the present state, right? Linda is a very good friend. Also within the HR space, we met as way back as Central University.
You're right.
And so yeah, I'm very excited to be here, especially when I saw that it was going to be hosted by a friend. It makes you feel more welcomed. So thank you so much for that, Linda, and
I
thank you
wish
for
I
the
could
great
add
work
I
you're
could add
doing.
more. I could add more to the introduction, but we already have a long bio. You already have a long
Right.
bio. And I'm glad you mentioned that we go way back Central University. and I
Yeah.
happen to, succeed her in the HR department as a HR president for the HR Students Association. And Miss Ewudiwa has just not been, a wonder by day. She has been someone who puts in the effort. She stays consistent with what she loves. And when it comes to education, she's the topmost that comes to mind. Yeah, she combines it all beautifully, and we are glad to have you here. And I hope everyone is going to be blessed and inspired by today's topic. So, Miss Elizabeth,
Thank you
please.
so much. I
Yeah,
feel like I
yeah.
just brought myself. That slang that we run around with, right? I just brought myself. I thought I was coming to do the thing, and then I brought myself, and we had another. Right, right, right,
You can't
Linda.
hide a star. You can't hide a star.
Thank you so much for that, and thank you so much, Reggie Manuel. I don't know if Reggie is here. Thank you so much, Reggie, for this opportunity, and to the entire WorldLink HR team for organizing this. Like I already shared, doing my own, my own publicity of today's event. I'm very excited to have to discuss this because it's not every time that you get the opportunity to discuss what you've written. And for me, this webinar is special because the the subject or the topic of earning and learning, or bridging the gap between learning and earning, is something for me that dates way back to about 4 years ago, that I was able to put a constructive piece of work together. And ever since, I've had to I've had to present the the ideology that I used in putting up that paper in so many ways to different kinds of audiences. But today I really get the opportunity to bring all of it together to the audience that it matters most to, which is as youth. So in the next few moments, I'm trying to share my screen. There. Okay, let's do this. Just hoping that it's able to show. So that's the ish. Just 1 minute. So just let me know if you're able to see my screen yet. Screen right there.
Okay, so we can't see it now.
Okay. Is it still
Oh,
not yet, right?
no, it's still not showing.
And the safest way is just to go just to go with my entire screen. Yeah, I just go with my entire
While we
screen.
wait, while we wait for our speaker to get her screen in check, um, I want to say we appreciate you all joining this webinar. And we want you to know that this is powered by WorldLink HR, and you can follow us on our social media platforms. You can find us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. Please do give us a follow, like our pictures, and recommend us to others because there are more webinars in store. Okay, so we have you on now.
You can see my screen now.
Yes, please.
Awesome. Is it in the slideshow mode? Unfortunately, I was trying to see if I can join with my other device so I can see you
Okay.
guys.
It's in the
Is it on
presentation mode.
slideshow mode
Not
now?
No, not on the slideshow mode.
Yeah, something wrong.
Okay, now we have it intact.
Okay. Okay. So is it now on the slideshow?
Yeah, yeah, it is.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Okay. Uh, yeah, unfortunately now I don't get the opportunity to see you guys, so I would have to rely on Linda throughout the call to let me know the vibes. Yeah, so today we're going to be discussing the topic of bridging the gap between learning and earning. And I hope to take it from as much of a practical perspective as possible because I feel like the topic itself is very practical. Usually, to start with, I like to just share a little bit more about myself again. But the reason I do this, I realize that the more of the person that you're speaking about that you know, the better you can understand their perspectives in a lot of things. So a lot of things have already been covered. So I would say that as an individual, one of the things that I do enjoy most, or some of the things that I do enjoy doing the most, include training, teaching. But apart from that, I have a big knack for arts, and so I do a lot of creative writing. I have a big knack for legalities, so I do a lot around law. But generally, I would say that I'm someone who is very much poised about the world of business and arts intertwined. And so I realized that in pursuing multiple areas of interest within the business and the arts, there was a science towards it. And so a few years ago, I went into something called quality management systems. And for me, ever since that has been a bedrock in terms of how I deliver most of my workshops. So maybe you see a little bit of that throughout the presentation. In case you do, yeah, just know that you're talking to someone who also loves quality management systems. So with that said, I like to set, I don't want to say ground rules, but let's call them, yeah, okay, ground rules, not ground rules. That's because, in Ghana, whenever we say rules, it's like the moment you say rules, some people hear break. So we we literally think about rules as things to be broken, and that's why I didn't want to say rules so we don't break them. But yeah, I'll just say things that I think we should be doing together on this call. The first is the positive vibes. First, let me be sure. Can you guys see my screen? And is my screen showing positive vibes?
Yes, please. We see positive vibes and we can see you as well.
Awesome, perfect. So the first thing today is I want us to really have fun, right? And so I really want positive vibes only. Um, I want us to listen to each other as much as possible. There's only one mic on this call, so I expect that if more than two people are talking at one point, it should be clear who should take the mic, right? I mean, at least start. I know it's a digital world. I think one of the disadvantage of technology is that the the attention span of humans is growing shorter by the day. So I know a number of us will be on this call, but we are not on this call emotionally, psychologically, physically. Please don't be that guy who logs in with his phone or his laptop and goes away to watch TV. Make sure you pay close attention. Um, I want us to really have a very conversational workshop. So I'll be asking questions and I don't want you to feel shy. Please be prepared to contribute. You can type, you can, I don't know what, yeah, I don't know if it's okay to also unmute. You can unmute at some point. By the end of the day, I really want to learn as much as you also want to learn from this call. And last but not the least, or last to the, or yeah, penultimately, I would say that don't leave this workshop still doubting. If there's anything that you came to this workshop to accomplish, if there's anything you wanted to understand better, it's my responsibility to make sure that you understand it. So choose to not let me go until you understand it. Ask where you doubt and make sure you don't end this call still doubting a lot of things. Last but not the least, please stay woke. I know it's Saturday and we've had busy days, but make sure you don't fall asleep. With that said, to start up, I want like maybe 2 to 3 people. Is there anyone who wants to share what their expectations are for today? When you heard the topic or when you read the topic, what came to mind? Why are you on the call today? I get like 2 people want to share, want to type in the in the chat box. You want to unmute. What are your expectations for tonight?
Hello.
Okay,
Hi.
Miss Blessing is on. We can hear you, please.
Um, My name is Blessing. Okay. My expectations for today when I read the topic was that first of all, this topic in general is just a little, it's more or less like a secret. So I really wanted to know, or yes, I wanted to know how I'll be able to finally make money from the little that I've learned from school. And in the future, definitely when I'm developing myself and getting higher in the academic ladder, I definitely want to know how to apply that in the, should I say, the corporate world.
Nice. Very nice. Thank you so much, Blessing. Okay. Anyone
Okay.
else? One more person and we'll move on. Where are the guys? Okay, so that's one win for the ladies. I keep a scorecard throughout my my workshops just in case you you don't know. Right. So I liked that blessing, and I would assume that every other person on the call had an expectation, if not similar, related to what Blessing has said, because I feel like it covers really what the topic is about. If you ask me what my expectations are, also, I'll tell you the same. But added to that is also the fact that I want to learn from you all, and I also want to have some chilled conversation. So at the end of the day, I'm hoping that we are both able to meet each other's goals. I'm able to help you understand on those areas that you mentioned, for example, what Blessing spoke about. But on the other hand, I hope you can also give me the opportunity to also learn from you and so feel chilled about this call. And so, in light of that, we'll go through a couple of topics on this call. It's going to be quite packed, but I'm hoping that we can still finish up in good time. So it's loaded, but not so loaded because I feel like a lot of things are things that we've heard more than once. And so we'll go through to start with the concept of career and its components. By the end of this call, I'm hoping that everyone here will be able to understand what a career means and what goes into building a career. I hope I'm also able to help everyone appreciate the stages of career development. Blessing mentioned not just how to make money from what I know now, but how to even apply it as I grow. And so this stages will tell you more, will tell you a little bit more about that. Thirdly, I'm hoping that everyone on this call, by the time we're done, would be able to apply the 7 pillars of career development. And last but not the least, I go very much futuristic, and I'll be sharing with you 12 mistakes to avoid. You know, the thing about regrets is that unfortunately, it takes painful experiences, right, to have regrets. So I'll be sharing with you 12 mistakes you should avoid on your career journey. And last but not least, we'll also look at the concept of entrepreneurship as a career path. So yeah, so to achieve that, I would start off with an overview of the labor market and take you through some of the drivers, trend, and components of career as we have in the 21st century. I'll take you through the stages of career development, and I'll quickly link that up with the pillars. And last but not the least, would end with the mistakes to avoid on the road to career success. And then I'll pause for a Q&A. P.S. If you have questions within this presentation, I would say that try to make use of the chat box or the Q&A so that you don't forget. However, I might only be able to fully address it when we get to the Q&A section. Right. So with that said, let's talk about people because that's really who we are. I like the fact that when Blessing was sharing what came to mind when she heard the topic, she talked about herself. Like it wasn't so difficult to own it, right? There's one, I don't want to say the major reason we all go to school, but I would say that the most popular reason people go to school is to get into this place called the labor market, right? The labor market is like every other kind of market. It's a place where buyers and sellers meet. The difference is what is sold in this market. And what is sold in this market are humans, not humans as in human body parts. It's human makeup, or in other words, human capital. When I say human capital, it means what we sell in this market is not people's body parts, it's people's intellects, people's competence, people's skill, people's experiences, people's abilities, people's knowledge. So this market, as much as it might look physical, it's very much not physical. It's emotional, it's psychological, it's mental, because the key things we sell in this market are not things you can easily touch. And like every other market, the law of demand and supply, you know, flows. With a higher value, you can always get a higher price. When we look at some of the things that governs the market at the moment, a lot of things have changed actually about the global labor market. I feel like the African labor market, precisely the Ghanaian labor market, still has a lot to catch up on. But the good thing is that the Western world tends to be a lot faster in some of this advancement. So when we want to look into the future for Africa, for us, it's almost not too far fetched, because it's almost like looking into America, looking into Europe and just seeing what's happening. For Africa, that can be our future, right? Unfortunately, that's how backward a lot of systems in Africa are, such that when we are looking into the future, we are looking for us at Europe and the US, at some of the Asian market. When we talk about some of the things that have changed in the labor market, I think these are things we are already fairly aware of. First is the application of advanced technology. And here we talk about AI, we talk about robotics and all of that. What does that now mean for humans? Humans will now more likely become valuable for things that machines cannot do. And what that is forcing is that we are now supposed to have more robust competences. When I say robust competences, it means that you cannot be a one-way street anymore, because anything can happen at any time. That you must be able to develop a set of skills that you can apply in multiple roles or multiple scenarios. Another thing we have noticed with the advance of technology is the room for continuous learning. Back in those days, when you wanted to study, you have to leave work. But now working and studying has become normal, right? And that's also because technology is much more advanced now, even in the area of education. People do full-time education, full-time work. All of that combinations is becoming more rampant. Another thing we see is the higher level of job insecurity, and this cannot be overemphasized. We have AIs and a lot of automated systems taking away human jobs. In some places, they no longer use tellers, right? There are some places you work into. I heard we still use typewriters in Ghana, right? But like in a lot of advanced places, some jobs like typewriting, you don't go anymore to school to learn how to do typewriting, right? So you see that a lot of jobs are changing, and unfortunately, the change means that some jobs will never exist again. This has also made us a lot of self-employment, and that's what I'm going to hit into in the course of this presentation. Now more than ever, we see people just starting up business. I like to say that the number of startups we are having in this generation, I don't think we've ever had that in the past. And one of the reasons why that number has doubled or tripled over the years is because of technology. We also have what we call the gig economy or the sharing economy. And this is where people share their assets. So something like Airbnb, right? You have a house, but you decide that your house is not just going to be your house is it's not just going to be for you, right? It's not going to be in itself a stream of income. So people have houses and they rent out part of their house, or sometimes even their room, right? You are living in the same, even though that again is not rampant in Africa, but most of the of the Western world, you see situations where people literally have their flat and just rent their room out for an Airbnb. But you also gradually see that developing Ghana. So really, the sharing economy is now becoming a thing, and even itself a form of self-employment because people are finding quite lucrative opportunities for raising money. Last but not the least is the whole concept of diversity and wellness. I don't want to talk about diversity because I feel like a lot is happening at the moment in the world, especially with Donald Trump's moves. Even though there are very interesting arguments around the impact on diversity, I think still in the long run, there's no one president, no one leader that can stop the force of diversity. And diversity is not just, in telling illegal immigrants to leave a country. There's a lot more to diversity than meets the eye. Yeah. So I just want someone to describe what they see in this picture. Can someone tell me what they see in this picture?
Okay, I think I'll go first.
Yeah.
All right. So in the picture, I see books, hard copy books are left behind, and students or probably workers now going with technology. That's one aspect I see.
I like it. Interesting. Thanks. Anyone else wants to try? A guy this time around. Do we have guys on the call?
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Elizabeth. Yes, very interesting session. I could see there's an intersection between learning and earning, and you could earn to learn and you could learn to earn.
Interesting. All right. I completely agree with both answers. And really, that's what it is. Linda said she saw. I hope that was Linda. I'm trying to use the voice, but yeah, I think Linda. So Linda said she saw books, right? But then she saw whoever they are, workers or students, I just say people who sort of put the books behind and tend to be using technology, right? And then we had another submission that there's an intersection between learning and earning. In both ways, you would notice that the brightest point in this picture is where learning and earning fully meets. And that's like at the far extreme. You see this bright light where it looks like these two lines are finally going to meet. And that's really where it's meet. And the truth of this picture is just on the fact that you realize that both on the learning and the earning side, they have almost the same equipment: books, desks, people, laptops, right? So that is really what the bridge is between learning and earning. Today's topic again. The bridge between learning and earning is principles. The same things that you do to learn would end up being the same things that you do to earn. So, really, at the end of the day, you would realize that there is earning in every learning, and there's going to be learning in earning. And for me, whatever you do to enable you earn in what you learn or learn whilst you're earning is what I call a career. And that's why the word career is going to be a buzzword for today's call, because that's what links learning and earning. If you know something and you don't make money from it, it's not a career. If you yeah, actually it's not possible. I mean, I stand to be corrected. I don't think it's possible to actually earn from what you don't learn. And that's why, like I said, yeah, like literally there's earning in learning, both spelling wise and like real life, there's really learning in earning. So basically, if you have something that you've learned and you're not able to earn from it, it's not a career. I'll probably call it a hobby, a passion, but it's not yet fully career. So when Blessing said that she was hoping that on this call she would be able to find how to use the little she knows or the little she has learned to earn, I found it very interesting because that's what a career already is like. If we have a, because of time, I would have really asked you guys to describe a career in your perspective. But many times there's a wrong perception that I've noticed with a lot of students and young people, and which is the misconception of what a career is. You know, whatever you choose to do in life, whatever at all you choose to do in life, as long as it's something that brings you money, it becomes a career. So I describe a career as a series of jobs that a person occupies throughout their life. In other words, your career is not fully built until you die. And bear in mind that I said it's a series of jobs. It means it is specific to a role, it's specific to a skill, it's specific to to a functional area. So at the end of the day, you realize that as you go through life, every role you ever occupied, whether the job title was reflective of what the role was actually doing or not, at the end of the day, it builds a path. And that takes me to what I call career development, which is literally the ongoing process through which a person builds their series of similar roles in life. I was speaking, I think was it last week or this week, I had the opportunity to have a couple of conversations with someone around career. Now, this is someone who has done quite a lot in life, um, within a particular field, right? But what the person realized was it's time to really make a leap, right? You would get to, so I think was on my next slide, I'll start talking about the stages of career development. The person had gotten to what I probably call the mid level. And what the person felt at that moment was a lot of fatigue and a lot of confusion. Now, the confusion was because the person had done so much in life, done so many roles, so many jobs, that now it's difficult to define who the person was, right? But what after a series of conversation, right, what the person could realize from our discussion was the fact that in every role the person ever occupied, in every job the person ever took, there were similarities, there were shared skills, there was shared knowledge, and this was what helped the person define what really the next step in their career should look like. What am I trying to say? If you are not, everybody builds a career automatically, really. If you even decide to stay at home and do nothing, you are building a career, a career of doing nothing, right? But what I'm trying to say is that we build a career willingly or unwillingly. You don't have to be so much intentional about building a career. You can just be applying for jobs, you know, any job that you see and just do it. That's a career. However, when we're talking about career development, it becomes intentional because now you're trying to make sure that everything that you do is building you to a particular point in your life. Next, let's talk about what we call career bridge. And I call this career bridge, I think it's one of my favorite words in career management. A bridge is anything that connects 2 points, right? Often, okay, I shouldn't say often. Let's be sincere, life can be very tough. And sometimes we make mistakes. I don't even call them mistakes. Sometimes we have to go through a very unconventional route to get to where we're going. There are times where what you studied is not what you really want to do or what you should be doing. And in those scenarios or in those situations in life, is where what we call a career bridge comes in. Now, a career bridge is that thing that connects you from where you are to where you really want to be. Most times, when both are not related. To someone who studied pharmacy and is a pharmacist, and has been a practicing pharmacist, and decides to become a data analyst or wants to move into data analysis, they are not directly related, right? So for such situations, there might be times where a person needs to take a bridge job. I call a bridge job a temporary position into what you want to do when you lack all the experiences. Now, there are times where sometimes, no, like, okay, let me repeat it. There are times where we are so eager to earn that we forget that you cannot earn from what you have not learned, right? And so we don't take enough time to build or to learn, especially when we have found a route to earn. Now, there are times where we do things, like I said, that you don't like or things that you are not so strong at, but you lack the experience for the thing that you could be good at. A bridge job most times is very little paying, like they'll probably pay you nothing, and if even something, very little. But someone who is very strategic on their career development would recognize a bridge job when they see it. Sometimes a bridge job is a volunteer experience. Sometimes a bridge job is yeah, sometimes it's a volunteer experience. Sometimes it's not a volunteer experience, but it's really you doing something that wouldn't even fetch you much. And my prayer is that whenever we are going through our journey, when we see a bridge job, we should be able to identify it. Because one thing also with bridge jobs is they are not easy to come by. And if your bridge job goes well, your bridge job can catapult you to a place where even someone who has been on the journey for a long period might not have gotten to, because it could actually become a catalyst that takes you farther than others. Then we have the career planning, and that's, I'm not going to emphasize that, but that just has to do with you setting goals, and putting up, yeah, literally creating goals, long term, short term, around your career. And last but not the least, we have goals, which is a smart plan to help you get to where you want to get to. But when we also talk about career, there are three things I want to make clear, especially around how to earn from what you learn. These three words, training, education, development, are one of the most misconstrued in the world. And when they are misconstrued, what happens is you take one and apply it wrongly. Now, training is anything that makes you better in what you're currently doing. So, for some of us that might still be in school, if you take a course or attend a workshop that can help you, if you're a pharmacy student, something around um, give me let me I know, yeah, I've heard of pharmacology a lot. All right, you take a program on pharmacology, or you take some YouTube videos on pharmacology. That is training. Why? It's helping you get better at what you currently do. Then we have what we call development, right on the opposite. Development prepares you for what you are about to do. In other words, you've not started doing it. So for many of us at this stage, right, leadership, for one, taking leadership courses, attending leadership workshops, those are just examples, by the way. There are more than one ways to learn. But I'm just assuming in a case of training, because that's what we are most familiar with, right? Taking a course on training, all of those would fall into development, not training, right? Then last but not the least is what we have, education. Education becomes the middle ground. Education is something that helps you for the now, for the tomorrow, and for the ever. So education becomes a lifelong journey. What tends to happen is that we take education like education should be training. So you don't read on any other thing, you don't do any other thing than what you are taught in class. When that happens, you miss a lot in terms of matching with people who are currently doing what you're doing. Remember, I said it's a labor market. And what happens in the market is that there are multiple sellers and there are multiple buyers. And what that creates is competition. And if you must earn, it means you must tell someone your why you deserve their money better than others. Again, so just to link it up, when you misconstrue what you need, when you place education in the role of training or place training in the role of development, you miss everything. One thing I want us to take away from this call is that as you review your life, right? We'll have a couple more sessions, right? But as you review the various intellectual assets you have in life, in the whole agenda of transitioning from learning to earning, you must be able to find the areas that you must develop now. Those areas are training areas. The areas you must develop for the future based on your career goals. Leadership cut across for everybody, right? But beyond leadership, there are other things that people would need for the latter stages in their career than others. And then you must realize that you must never stop learning, because that's what education tells you. What was it? I ran into this post. I think it says this. It's called Unemployed Graduate Student Association. I can't remember what I ran into, but it was like, yeah, I think the flyer had the president of the Unemployed Students Association, and I laughed when I saw that flyer. I laughed because they said unemployed, but becoming a president of an association isn't that an employment? What I'm just trying to say is that with a wrong perception of education, you will never end. Even when people tease that education is not important, when you look through even the life of people who dropped out of school to build the world's biggest companies, you would see that there were things they learned in school. They might not have fully completed, and some of them actually, not some of them, they all did later on, right? But we only take the part of the fact that they dropped out. We don't think about the fact that they took more courses, they took more certifications. By the end of the day, with the wrong perception of education, nobody is ever going to earn. Next, we'll go through the stages of career development, and I'll run through this quickly so we can have enough time for the pillars. The first is the exploratory stage, and that's where I believe that most people on this call will be, at least from the preamble that I got. This is the stage where you're really trying to find what works. This is the stage you get into from your final year to your national service, and some people, this stage can last for a very long time. Typically, in this stage, you probably earn very little to no money. First, because you've not learned so much. Second, because you're not even so sure of what you should be doing. This stage can happen at any time in a person's life. For some people, they started their exploratory stage in level 200. I had my first job when I was in level 300. Yeah, all things being equal. What that meant for me was, by the time, like 4 or 5 years later, I realized that when I was going to quantify the level of experience that I had in some of the things that I did, what my colleagues would have to mention a 5 or a 6 or a 4, I had as much as an 8 year experience. And when you, if I told you my age, you would not believe that someone of that age should have that much experience. But why was that possible? I realized I was because I started work quite early. So your first stage can begin at any level. I'll be so glad if there's a level 100 here who is already here. I'll be so glad if there's a level 300 here who's already here. Don't think that your exploratory stage should start after school. Most times when it starts after school, it becomes more difficult. Next, we have the organizational entry stage. This is where you sort of now have an idea of what you're going to do. Typically, this will be your first proper job. Um, when I say proper job, there are jobs and there are jobs, right? This would typically be your first proper job. Proper job because this is a job that is utilizing your skills. your knowledge and your experiences over the years. However, again, this place you're also earning not so much. Let me not get anyone confused. So yeah, I'm talking about stage two. Here you're also not earning so much. However, at this stage, most times you are full of energy, and the organization likes the fact that you're full of energy. You can bring all the ideas in the world. Next, you move on gradually to your early career stage. Early career stage, you are becoming a little bit more settled. This is now the part where you are amplifying your voice in the organization. I don't want to put an age to it, but all things being equal, you probably get your early stage after your after 3 years, 2 to 3 years of really working like properly. The the returns there can be quite okay. Yeah, at least early career, you can start up. You can definitely afford to get your own house and all that. That's your own house, yeah. Your own probably your rented apartment if you're going to rely fully on your money. Then we have the mid career. The mid career will typically probably be the most rewarding because at this point you have entered the middle part of the battlefield. Here the competition is high, but if you've done a great job, you should have created a niche for yourself by your mid career. So you can all be doing pharmacy, but you have a particular area that you are best at. You can all be doing marketing, but you have a particular area that you are best at. We can all be doing finance, but by your mid career, you should ideally have created your niche because you find a lot of people here. This is where you get, of course, more money. By this time, you really don't have time to start to start afresh with something low because here you likely have families already. Now there are people looking up to you. And for me, this is where people struggle the most when they have to move into another career. I've had people who are in their mid-career level where they tell you, gosh, I don't like what I'm doing anymore. Like I really need to go somewhere. I really need to do something else. Bridge jobs in your mid-career can be very difficult because remember I said bridge jobs they are rare, and second they are very very like they have very low returns. And that's why I always say that if you sense that you have to move earlier because your career journey only progresses. And the farther you go on a path that you know is not yours, the more difficult it's going to be for you when you decide to switch. So at your mid career, you are definitely richer, taking care of a lot of things. And this is where, if you're really in the right career path, you should get a lot of fulfillment at your mid career level because that should ideally be the peak. The last but not the least, okay, not the last but one is what I call the late career stage, and that's the decline. By the way, I should say that you spend the longest period of your time in your mid career level. So you realize that after your mid career, you are really fading out. If you are in a full time job, if you worked for somebody all your life, this is where you have to prepare for retirement because there's a legal age by which you are not supposed to work. Again, for some people, your late career might not be a late career. For some people, your late career might not be a decline. And that's because some people, in creating their niche in their mid career level, would find a new path altogether. Have you ever noticed that older people tend to write books a lot when they are much like, yeah, older people tend to write books a lot. Most times, that's when they're in their late career to their declines, because that's when they've really seen a lot, if not seen it all. And they are more enthusiastic about training and coaching others. The last but not the least is for only those who decide not to die at stage five. They transition or they begin something new. Some people start their businesses in their late career. So for them, at 60, life rather began because they moved to stage six. Some people decided to build. Some people decided to to build a new product. Remember, there's entrepreneurship and there's innovation. Some people decided to innovate at their late career level. And what happens for those people that they don't die, they don't decline. The goal for everyone on this call, I would say, is that you should be able to get to your state 5 and not decline. If you decline at your state 5, you probably never fully planned your career well, because a properly planned career path only dies when you die. Next, I'll go through the 7 pillars quickly of development. So just to run through, we have planning, self-identity, flexibility, optimism, and learning. Then we have specialization, productive habits. I'm just run through. Now, when we talk about the things, now I've taken you through the stages of career development, right? From your entry level stage, that's the exploratory stage, to the stage of transition, right? That's for those who do not die, to the stage of transitioning. What are the things that make those stages possible? It's like driving through a road. And I've told you that your first bus stop when you're trying to get to where you're supposed to get to is the exploratory. Like, no, not your first bus stop. The place you're supposed to take off from is your exploratory stage. Your destination is your transition, right? Now, when you're driving through the road, the reason it's a road is because there are pillars that created the path. And that's why, I don't know if you've ever used the Google map and you get to somewhere, you realize that there's no way, but you got a sense that your destination is on, like, it is quite close. The difference is the map has taken you to a path where there's no way. So you can see your destination, but the map took you through a path where they had not created a path yet. What I'm trying to say is that as I've taken you through the stages, the 6 stages of career development, these pillars, what I'm about to share with you, are the things that make that road possible. Remember, when I started, I said that while learning and earning are related, is because they function on the same principles. What you need to earn is what you need to learn. And every time you earn, you must learn. And every time that you learn, you can earn. So these are the pillars that make that journey possible to develop through your career journey. First is planning. I'm saying it's planning because you cannot not plan. You know, there's this quote that if you don't plan, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. It's as simple as that. So to your advantage, if you fail, if you don't plan, you can as well plan and have the at least the probability not to fail. Your career must be built on planning. I realize that it's very obvious to see the difference between people who planned their lives and who didn't. And I want you to just think about it. Think about the most successful people that you know. And if you probably have the opportunity to speak to them, speak to them. You realize that they were doing things that their colleagues weren't doing. Whilst people were still learning all about their books and passing exams, they're probably taking the next step and started building their company. Some of them I started working. My first ever job was a remote work, and I did it. I think I did for like I did for my level 300 up until the end of my national service. So it was so easy that when I was done with school, while I was doing national service, I was still part time. So I started part timing with it, right? So I moved to another role which demanded more time before I had to completely stop it. What I'm trying to say is that when you have foresight of where you're going, it makes life easier. I use the word goals, vision, goals, strategies because these words are usually intertwined, but they are not the same. Earlier this year, I had a session called Goaling with God. And what I tried to explain is the fact that you don't plan for the love of planning. I don't want you all to leave this call and say, oh, because Madam Elizabeth said that you have to plan, then you begin to put plan one. Sorry, not plan one. Let's say you say then you write in the year 2026, I should become a data analyst. Let 2028, I should become a senior data analyst. No, You don't plan for the love of planning. Every goal you must set in life must be tied to your vision. So I would say that to build a successful career, you must understand the vision for your life. And that vision is not created because you just like something. It must be something deeply intertwined with your purpose. Next is self identity. Everyone who has ever built a successful career, remember I said a successful career gives you room to learn and earn together. Because if all you do is learn and you can earn, it's not a career. Now, everyone who has ever built a successful career, you see an expression of themselves in it, meaning that what you do must be tied to who you are. And that's why the first point came. Remember, I said vision, right? It must be tied to your purpose in life. What it means is that your career journey becomes an expression of you. Why? Because the career roadmap is tough. It's really tough. And the only thing that could keep you moving throughout is passion. And passion is not manufactured. I don't know if you've ever tried to like a course that you don't like. Yes, you manage it because you know that you need the course to pass. But you and I know that if you were to take a master's or a PhD, you won't take it in that course that you didn't like, right? So imagine the fact that a career is something you do all your life. Remember, I said a successful career never dies until the person dies. So if this is something you're going to do all your life, you can as well do something that you enjoy and something that really expresses you. I was reading a couple of weeks back. Was it? No, I think it was last year. It was on the news that Elon Musk had developed a new. I'm trying to remember. I think he had started working on a new AI, which it was said that he had started long ago. Um, Basically, what's what made me wild about that post was the fact that Elon is not a technical executioner at this point. Like, this is a CEO. They focus on strategies. Leave technical development to the technical guys. But the fact that even at that level, he still innovates, he's still interested in the technical innovation process, is because for him, tech is now not just something he does to make money. It's who he is as a person. So you realize that most CEOs who really started successful businesses will find themselves so expressed in it that they don't they almost and they almost are never able to take their hands off what they do. Like, now you know you are high on that ladder. Somebody else should do the technical development, someone else should do the back end. No, they're so in love with it that they can sit and develop this thing themselves, and it's cost them nothing. So what I'm trying to say is that your career should revolve around you. And I know it's a tough word because sometimes we are plagued with the fact that we have a society that places a lot of demands on us. Your mother wants you to be this, your father needs you to be this. At the end of the day, this is my story. Take everything that has been thrown at you, all of the demands, and use it to find the you. You see that in this image, there are many parts. There's the mental, social, physical, but there's you at the middle. Let everybody's ideas be ideas, but let decisions originate from you. So I like to say that in moving through a successful career, you must be able to define yourself. Thirdly, is the notion of flexibility. Remember, I said that when you're going through your journey, you'd realize that a lot of things can make you and a lot of things can break you. I don't think someone who went to secretarial school 70 years ago and had to learn typewriting, if the person's goal was to build a career out of typewriting, the person would definitely not be successful. Not in this 21st century. What the person would, the only chance the person would have to be successful is what I call flexibility, which is the ability to still reach your goal, even in the face of challenges. Time won't permit me to go a lot into goal setting, but you realize that when you set a very wrong goal, no, a very a good example of a wrong goal or an incorrect goal, I would say an incorrect goal, is a goal that you have only one way to achieve. Why? Because that goal is likely not to happen because the world is full of uncertainties. So that's why I said that if you plan well, you realize that to really achieve your goal, you must be flexible. Flexible might mean taking up a new path, trying out new things, taking up new skills, or whatever they could be in their sense of newness. Fourth, I say is optimism, and I think it's closely related. I won't tell you that the journey in life is sweet, totally stress free. I'll tell you that the journey in life is tough and hard. You fail at it so many times. You know, the funny thing, even the things that you become an expert at, you must have failed so many times at it. Thomas Edison said, I didn't learn 100 ways. I mean, what my failure taught me was 99 ways not to light a bulb. So at the end of the day, you must be prepared to fail, but make sure that you don't see any failure as final. I I like to tease that life is not like dominoes. I don't know if you're familiar with dominoes. Domino is such that when you kick one, there's a ripple effect, everything falls. But that's not how life is. You sometimes you fail at one thing to get successful at another thing. Again, when I said that planning your life should be based on a vision about your life, you realize that sometimes you fail at the thing that you are supposed to be successful at. And sometimes you fail at the thing that you are not to be successful at. But in both cases, you realize that failure was not final. But the difference would be that if you have the right vision, you would know when what you failed at should redirect you to another path, or when what you failed at should teach you how to be successful in what you do. An example was the case of Thomas Edison's light creation. It wasn't supposed to be a failure that takes him to create another thing. It was supposed to be a failure that should tell him how not to light a bulb. Fifth, I said, is learning, and I won't emphasize this because I feel like everything here is really about learning. And when we talk about learning, let's be more open-minded. Learning is not just you sitting behind your books. In fact, learning is more tangible than that. Learning is the relative permanent change in behavior. I took this definition from a long time again from Armstrong, and I realized that it's true. Do you know why somebody can be amazed that, let's say, do you know why you should be amazed when you meet a medical doctor who tells you they don't know what paracetamol is used for? Because it means they never learned. But you ask yourself, oh, but they have a degree and all that. The reason you be upset with them is that their knowledge has not reflected in what they told you. So what I'm trying to say is that make sure that when you're going through school, you are not just warming the pews. You are not just making friends. You are learning, meaning that your behavior must change. If this is your first year in pharmacy school, by the end of your first year, there must be something different about you. And what should be different about you should not be your GPA. I can't remember how many interviews I went to and somebody asked me about my GPA. I'll be sincere. I don't think I've ever gotten it. Okay, maybe in one or two. They're like, oh, wow, impressive GPA. But it was never the criteria for any job or for any opportunity that I got. And one of the things that I realized is that if you focus too much on just attaining qualifications and not learning, you become as absolute as someone who does not have qualification. So at the end of the day, what I'm trying to say is that there must be a change in you. I would quickly run. How many more minutes do I have? I hope I'm not hacking you guys too much. Yeah, okay, right. I'll quickly run into the last but not the least phase of today's lecture, which is the mistakes to avoid on the road to career success. Again, all through the conversation, I've been talking about the career journey, right? How to move through your career journey. And I was speaking about the fact that learning, there is earning in learning. And whatever you do to make that happen is what I call a career. Over the past few years, I'll call it few, many about few years of my life because I'm still young. I put together these 12 things because I once asked myself, what are the things that I wish that I knew? What are the things that if I had known earlier, probably I could have been better? So I'm sharing this with you, not just from personal experience, but also from a lot of engagement with people. The good thing about my job is that I don't just get to know about my experience, I get to know about other people's experience due to opportunities for career coaching and a lot of youth advocacy programs that I've done. So at least I've been able to see what helped me that some people did. I mean, I've been able to look at what helped me, what some people missed that didn't help them, what helped some people that I did not apply, and everything I've put together into these 12 mistakes. So, first for me is the fear of the unknown. Remember, I talked about the bridge jobs. I've met people who knew that they had to switch. They didn't switch in their exploratory stage, they didn't switch in their early career stage. They decided to switch in their mid career, which is not bad. But my point is, if you have a sense of the switch already, earlier is better. It's more difficult to switch in your mid career stage, like I shared. But one of the reasons that I realized that one of the reasons that made a lot of people delay their switch was because they were afraid of moving into something different. Remember, I said a bridge job takes you into a new terrain altogether. So if you're someone who is too afraid of the unknown, trust me, I don't think you can build what works. Whether you're talking about being an entrepreneur or being an employed staff of an organization, at the end of the day, I don't think you can build what lasts if you stay in the fear of what could happen or not happen. Second will be a poor net worth. I like to tease people that if you go through school and all you got is a GPA, all you got is a certificate, you are one of like, you should go back for your school fees. Universities, precisely, amongst other forms of, amongst other institutions of education, gives you the opportunity to meet a lot of people. Many people that I've spoken to and I've had the opportunity to engage on different levels, I can I can affirm that a lot of good things come up from the people you know at school or in school. Do you know why a lot of schools, like top schools, create associations like old boys associations, old girls associations? It's to build network or net worth. One of the things that can delay your career success or delay your progress is having a poor net worth. So my encouragement to you is that your first job is likely to come from someone you know in school. Might not be a colleague, might not be a lecturer, might be somebody you met through engagement in school. So as you go through life, remember that everybody you meet in class, every lecturer that teaches you, everyone you stumble into, every opportunity that comes from school is an opportunity to build something bigger for the future. Another mistake you can make is prioritizing money over experience. Remember, I told you that in your exploratory stage, you probably not be getting enough. I mean, let's talk about NSS. How much does NSS pay? You can't even pay your rent out of NSS. But if you put money ahead of experience, guess what? You'll never get money. I don't know if you have some services that you like so much that you know that if this service, if the person tells me to pay more, I am ready to pay more. I have a few services that I patronize so much, and I'm like, if these guys increase their prices today, I'm going to pay. The difference is, I mean, the reason I can make such a bold statement about some people is because their value is so much. I almost feel I don't know what's the word. Their value is so much. I have taken them as an indispensable part of my life. I'll take for example electricity. Do you know if they increase light bill today, you pay whether you like it or not? Because it has become an indispensable part of you. It's the same thing in building a successful career. Your value must be built to a place where you place a demand on what you want. Like they don't have to negotiate it because they know that what you offer is more than that. But you won't get that if all you started doing was asking people for money. Because guess what? The moment somebody like even you talk, just think about yourself. The moment you're applying for something, you see money involved. Don't you do a back click? You do a back click. You immediately do a back click to reason like, is this really something I want to go into? Another mistake is people avoiding detours. Sometimes you go on a path and your path is not meant to be straight. And my encouragement to you is whenever you realize that your path is not totally straight, don't be afraid to detour. Don't be afraid to take a bend, to take a U turn, to take a roundabout, whatever it is. And one of the things that helps you do that is a career bridge. At this point, I'll share a story of someone that I met. I think he started working for my company a couple of like 2 3 years ago. He came in as a national service person. He did one of those courses that you wonder how people would get jobs in Ghana with those courses. I don't want to mention, but some of those courses, right? And I think during the assignment, we had posted him to our warehouse, and in the warehouse, you just do more with drugs. So warehouse would so deal more with drugs. I don't know if anyone's into warehouse here, but yeah, drugs, arrangement, sorting, alignment. But a part of the drug management is where you have to enter in the details. So you have to keep an online or an Excel register of these drugs, how where they are supplied, where it's coming from, and all of this. Now this guy goes into supply chain, of course, just as national service person. And I know that every national service person we came didn't want us to post them to the warehouse for of course obvious reason. There's a lot of hard work there. By the time this guy was done, I think he was just ending national service. There was an opportunity in the in our company for a data analyst intern, right? Apparently, in his journey, he had gotten some keen interest in data. And of course, because there was that part about Excel with the warehouse, he was enjoying it. And I remember that I had a conversation around this, not a conversation, I had a training on this topic. I think the year or the month or two to when the national service was ending. But before then, he had gotten an offer for an internship, right? What's an internship? We all know internship pays very, very little. And second is like 6 months, 1 year. It means you could get a renewal or not. And I remember that he had mentioned that, oh, he had wanted to not take the offer because, it's not going to pay him much. It's not going to a lot of stories. And I pushed him right to go in for. I mean, if it's really something you have, something you like, what do you have to lose? For me, that guy is one of my biggest testimony because many years down the line, this guy is one of the best data analysts you can think of. Like he's really literally at that point in the business that I would say he's one of the critical parts of his department. The good thing that happened was almost before the internship ended, the business decided to set up a data team. What did that mean? Opportunity for a full-time role. And that has kept being the progress. So a lot of people who would have come afterward, he had the he he literally had the first mover advantage because he was the first guy who had the opportunity to be trained on that role. And the person he got to train him on that role was literally the vice president of the data team. Every other person who comes into the team will probably not get the vice president being the one to train you, but he had that. What am I trying to say? If this guy stayed in, I want to practice environmental science when he knew he was good in data analysis, I don't think he would have experienced the vast growth he had experienced now. So when you think you have to switch, please switch. And if your brief job will not pay you much, it's fine as long as you can survive. But I think there's a whole lot of complications around it. The fifth point is monotony, the mistake of learning only one thing, being so straight-jacketed. I mentioned, was it in the components or in the pillars, the point about flexibility. Make sure that you don't know only one thing in life. And if you know only one thing in life, let that one thing be a niche. I don't know if you get it. There's a difference between specialization and monotony. Monotony is knowing only one thing. Specialization is knowing a range of things, but with deepest insight into a particular part of it. So you must make that, like, that must be clear during your whole career progression. You must be sure that you are not being monotonous, but you should eventually become a specialist. The sixth point is starting late. Starting late simply means that you just didn't plan early. Like I said, the career stages are not based on your age. Somebody can start their exploratory stage at the age of 16. It might therefore mean that they would get to their mid career level faster than somebody who has started at the age of 21. So you choose, but starting late tends to make things more difficult, especially now that we're in a world where everyone is doing youth agenda, youth empowerment. There are certain jobs that when you see a 50-year-old applying for, you would almost kick them out. Why? Because there's a lot of focus on the youth right now. So God forbid that you make your detour at such a later time in life that now you have to compete with people who started at the age that you should have started. Another mistake you should avoid is poor branding. Some people have very great, like very good skill sets, awesome, but they are very poor on paper, and that's where your CV comes in. So if you don't already have a good CV, not to say, make sure that your CV is good enough. And that's a whole new session on its own, so I'm not going to talk about it. But make sure that when somebody looks at you on paper, they at least get a very good, like they at least get an opportunity to judge you right. Is that fair? Because it's really not fair to yourself to be a great person and have a poor CV. Don't don't give that thing about God looks at my heart. You know that thing that we give when we want to dress the way we want to dress, like, oh, God looks at my heart. Please, the same thing applies in your career journey. People will not always get the chance to know you before they get to know you. And the only fair thing you can do to yourself is to give them the opportunity to judge you right by giving them sufficient and credible information. So don't be a great person and have a poor CV. The eighth point is making your career your hobby. I talk a lot about enjoying something. Now, remember I said your career is something that you can earn from learning. You can earn. Nobody earns something. Listen to this carefully. Nobody earns from what they enjoy doing. You only earn from what you know how to do. If what you know how to do happens to be what you enjoy doing, perfect. But if it's not, always pick what you know how to do over what you enjoy doing as your career path. I enjoy writing, but I think it would have been a very bad choice to decide that I want to be a writer in life. Like that's my full-time career. Some people are able to do it full-time, right? I can't compare my writing to Chimamanda's, of course not. But I took writing as a hobby. And what has that done over the years? I had the opportunity to grow at my own pace because I'm not forced to make money out of it. A couple of times that I've had engagement through my writing, which has paid me. which is perfect. But whenever you let what you know how to do, but you don't know how to do well enough becomes your career, you either get frustrated. I know as young people, this is a big deal because parents will often complain that, my child says, I love football. That's what I want to do in life. And you forget that it's something you enjoy doing. That might not be something that you know how to do best. And even if it's something you know how to do best, what's the chances that you get into the Black Stars? So make sure that you don't make a hobby out of you don't make a career out of your hobby if your hobby is not what you know how to do best. And the ninth point is poor financial planning. I don't want to emphasize that because I think it's clear. Your career journey will take you through different phases of income, right? Some phases you have more money than others. But if you plan well, you realize that even when you don't have the monies yet, if you are really investing wise, you know that the reward is coming. So don't so chase the money that you forget the long-term effects. The fact that you must rather invest more in the thing that gives you the opportunity to have more money in the future. The 10th point is no specialization. Like I said, don't 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 misconstrue this as monotony. Specialization means that when you are in a particular field, every field in life is broad. Is it pharmacy? Is broad. Is it medicine? It's broad. Is it even human resource? It is broad. Even public speaking, it is broad. I don't know what you can say in life that is not broad. Do you know even data analyst? Data analysis is broad. Whatever you do, as you grow through your journey, by your mid-level, ensure that you've been able to find the nitty-gritty area that you do best at. And when you find it, make your best better till it becomes the best of the best. So that by your late career level, you can be called a specialist, meaning that there's an experience that you have that nobody in this world could possibly have had. The next point is becoming passive. And I think this is usually the problem with youth unemployment. When you have a lot of conversation with people, you realize that some people's problem is not even not getting jobs. It's the mindset. They become so passive about life, about career, that I feel like if you even give them a job right now, they'll probably never grow beyond the position you give them. Being passive about life affects everything, including your career. And passive people tend not to learn. They'll tell you they learn by taking 50 courses a year. But remember, I said, if whatever you are informed, whatever knowledge you have is not reflected in your behavior, you have not learned. The last but not the least, which will transition us to the last part of today's presentation, is what I call undermining career, undermining entrepreneurship as a career path. This is a big deal because I'm sure that ever since I've been talking, everybody has been thinking about getting a job at KPMG, Morgan Stanley, Bank of America, Goldman Sachs, Tallow Oil, Anglo Gold Ashanti. Mention the best companies in the world, right? I don't think, or let me be fair, let me give a benefit of a doubt. I think it's probably only few people that during all of my conversation so far, or during all of my presentation so far, started thinking about how they're going to build something. Entrepreneurship is a career path. Remember what I said about education? That education prepares you for life. No, but I don't know. I don't think if you check the definition of education or when the concept of education popped up from, it was never made to be a process that gives you a job. It's a process that it was never meant to be a process that gives you a job that was created by others. It's a process that gives you a job. That job, we don't know who creates it. It could be created by others, it could be created by yourself. I completely subscribe to the fact that not everybody is born an entrepreneur, and not everybody can be made an entrepreneur. But this is my challenge to the youth every time I get the opportunity to speak. You may not be an entrepreneur, but you must be entrepreneurial. An entrepreneur is someone who is building a business. But someone who is entrepreneurial is someone who has the mind of building a business. You realize that all the pillars of career development and the stages of career development that I mentioned requires the same characteristics that an entrepreneur has: ability to lead, ability to forecast, ability to understand, ability to take risk. All of these things you'll find in an entrepreneur. But if you're also going to grow as an employed person, employed by somebody else, you must be entrepreneurial. So please don't give me the excuse that, I don't think I'm cut out of building a business or starting a business. It's fine. But make sure that when someone looks at you, when someone works with you, they can go like, you have the mindset of a business owner. I think that's where we as Africans, or let me rather say Ghanaians, do a lot of injustice to ourselves. You go to, especially with the local businesses, the SMEs, sometimes you walk into an SME and you just see that employees don't care how their monies come. Like you care about the fact that at the end of the month you get money. But if what you are doing every day is how we get money, do you think you should be paid? That is the mindset you must have if you're going to build a successful career. Because this mindset makes you a leader who is driven internally. You don't need someone to whip your butt for you to stay in line. You know what it means to stay in line because you see the end result. And that's what I want everyone on this call to get out with. If not for anything, let one thing that you learn from today's lecture be the fact that even if you're not an entrepreneur, you must have an entrepreneurial mindset. And that's the mindset of leadership and accountability. For those who decide to take entrepreneurship as a career path, I know people who came out of school and never worked with people and they're doing awesome starting their own business. Of course, they have challenges. But I think for me, one other thing I also just want you to embrace is the fact that don't build businesses for yourself. This is my heart cry. Oh my God. As young people, sometimes our environment makes us feel like Ghana is the world or Africa is the world. Africa is none of it. Africa is not even half of the world. Learn to let's embrace entrepreneurship as a contribution to humanity. Don't just see it as a family business, a business that I'll build so that my family members can eat. So the moment you can build a business that it gives you money to eat, you're fine. I want us to see how we expand. Because guess what? All the big companies we all want to work for. You think if the owners started building it and became complacent, you would want to work for them? Of course not. Again, if you have an entrepreneurial mindset, when you think of the businesses you want to work for and you have the opportunity to start your own business, you think about the fact that if they didn't stop and they kept building to the extent that I grew up and wanted to work for them, then I must be able to also build something that generations to come will grow up and say, I want to work for Reggie Manuel's business. And one of the things we must explore as young people when it comes to building our own businesses is exploring the opportunities for international collaborations. And this one, it's your take-home assignment for those who decide to look at entrepreneurship as a career path. There are a lot of problems on our campuses. When I say problems, like business, like problems that could be turned into business. Some schools, some campuses, no good busing system, no good shuttle system. A lot of things that we see on campuses outside Africa, outside our part of the world. When students see those things, before you know, CEO of A2 Company Limited, what do they do? Oh, they're able to create busing system across campuses, right? But in Africa, we laugh over our problems. What the white man sees and makes a business idea of, we laugh over it. I want us to think of every opportunity we have around us as an opportunity to make an impact. And when you're doing that, don't let money be your problem. I'll end by saying, like, on this part, I would end by saying that read about international financing a lot. Read about startup funding. The pre-seed, typically that's where your friends and family. The seed level, read about micro VCs, angel, um, business angels, venture capitals. At the end of the day, what I'm just trying to say is that when you find that business prospect, when you find that entrepreneurial drive, make sure that you are thinking of ways to fund it beyond just your local community, because you want to build a business that lasts and not a business that gives you money for the short term of your short life as a career person, because life is longer than how many years you decide to live on earth. Last but not the least is the component of practicing or building productive habits. And I think that's like way overemphasized, because every single thing that I've spoken about today, I feel like the best way to run with it is to create repeated actions out of it. So when I spoke about flexibility, what are the things you can intentionally put your hand on that you feel helps you hone your ability to move in foreign or new terrains? Somebody will say that I would intentionally learn a foreign language. Do you know that's building your flexibility? Because your ability to always find yourself learning something you don't understand, unconsciously you are building your brain, or you are cultivating your mind to be able to take on things that you're not familiar with. So that's just an example. So yeah, in conclusion, we've had a very long talk. I hope I'm right on time. Yeah. Yeah, so in conclusion, we've gone through the labor markets, where I took you through what the trends are, and I took you through what career involves, talking about, and I clarified key points or key definitions around career management. I took you through the 6 stages of career development. I would have done a quiz at this point, but time, where I spoke from the where I spoke from the exploratory stage, right, up onto the transition stage. I spoke about the 7 pillars of career development, where we talked about planning, flexibility, optimism, coming running quiz, and the rest. And then I ended up with the 7 mistakes to avoid. And I emphasized the fact that another mistake you should not make is not, yeah, where I no sorry so yeah, I did the 12 mistakes, right, where I ended by saying that a mistake you should avoid is not considering entrepreneurship as a career path. With that said, I dare say that the only way to win in life, the only way to earn in life, is to learn, because there is always earning in your ability to learn. I would pause at this moment. I know it's been a long lecture, and I'll hand over to,
Yeah,
is it Linda?
yeah, I'm here. What a power-packed session. Um, Let me say that I didn't feel bored throughout all the session. I actually followed through to the very end, and I I enjoyed every part of it. And I hope those who actually joined are rather even more inspired than I am. And when I was introducing Miss Elizabeth, I didn't add that as part of her public speaking engagement, she actually does poetry. And so she couldn't hide that in her submission. And so you could hear something like, um, you earn in learning and all those things. So please, I got you in that corner. You couldn't hide your poetic parts. And that was wonderful. And I like that you infused all that flexibility into it. And not
Thanks
only
for the
was that your
invitation.
experience, your experience, but from your engagement with other people. And that is what makes this session a rich one. You're not going to hear this from anyone, because when it comes to experience, you should be first hand to get to know it. And if she's here to share that with us, then we are privileged. We are privileged. I have made a few notes down, but at this point, I want participants to come in with their questions. If you can't ask the question, you can leave them in the chat and then we'll read them. We have about 10, 14 minutes to go. Yes, so let's take this opportunity to ask questions. And Miss Elizabeth, thank you so much for honoring this invitation and filling us up. So please get ready for your questions as they come.
Thank you.
I see one hand up. That is Edwin Pujo. Please, Mr. Samuel, if you are here, please unmute her so she can ask her question. Thank you. Okay, Miss
Uh,
Edwin.
Hello, good evening, Mamiesi and team. Yeah, mine is a contribution. Um, with regards to the transition from the exploratory level, I think that at that point it is very difficult considering the factors and then the challenges. I remember in my career, around the 50th year of my career, actually I was a database administrator and I decided to make a switch to the human resources because I had degree in human resources and then the passion to also manage human resource people, or I didn't want to manage data or what we call rocks. So I had to do all my possible best to be transitioned from the geology department to the human resource department. When I got there, I realized I was losing about 30% of my salary going into the drain. So I remember at a point the HR manager called me, sat down with me. Eddie, why did you take this decision? Because we could realize we are losing so much. And I told my manager, this is what I am best at. And I love doing that. So irrespective of how much is going to through the drain, I think in future I'll be able to recover them. And thank God, in this is my 14th year in human resource, and I
Wow.
can boast of the fact that I am one of the best IR persons when it comes to the human resource fraternity. Thank you, team, for the opportunity.
Wow. Thank you so much, Edward. This is huge. Congrats. Congrats. I am personally inspired. And I really hope everyone here is like 14 years later, still doing human resource. Yeah. And guys, did you also notice that Sir Edward has found his niche, right? Because he mentioned IR. So it's not just like any human resource. And I feel like one thing that makes people who switch in their career different is that nobody else in the world has their wealth of experience. There's no human capital person in the world that will have the wealth of experience from a database management background like Sir Edward, right? And that itself becomes now his unique persona in the world of HR. Right. Thank you so much for sharing that, Edward.
Thank you, Miss Elizabeth. Also, we kindly wait for the questions from our audience. Uh, I don't have anything in the chat box at this point. Okay, Miss Blessing has her hand up. We would hear from her.
Hello. Please, firstly, I would like to say thank you very much, Miss Elizabeth, Back in school, one of our lecturers mentioned your name because you had like a perfect GPA. And it was actually one of the reasons why I really pushed forward. And it's such an honor to finally get to hear from you personally. Thank you very much for the session. And what I want to ask is relating to the mistakes. The first thing you mentioned really like spoke to me, the fear of the unknown, because I really relate to that. Um, I think entering into the career field, you always have a lot of questions, a lot, especially when you read about people who are doing great and then you start to doubt yourself if you can do it, how much effort they had to put in order to get there. So I want to ask, would you, in as much as it's a mistake, would you say that it can be any source of wealth, sorry, source of health in terms of, would you be able to create something meaningful from having any any doubt, or is it right for you to even question your future, ask questions about how your life or your career path is going to be? Is there any way possible to find some source of strength in that?
Okay, so thanks so much, Blessing. So just to be sure that I got your question well, you're asking if there's a way to, if there's any strength to be found in the fear of the unknown.
Yes, please.
Okay. Um. Hmm. I think fear generally has nothing to offer. Fear of any kind apart from the fear of God, because that's definitely different. But fear in itself has nothing to offer. And so I won't say there's any good thing in it. However, it can be the only good thing that can come out of fear is when fear is turned around. So you realize that it's not the fear itself that becomes a strength. It's the it's the it's the controlled utilization or the different application of the fear that becomes a source of strength. I think one of the things that when you turn around the fear of the unknown into a positive light, what you should gain from it is the fact that it means that first, a lot of things are unpredictable. What is the biggest characteristics of unpredictability? If you ask me, I would say it's innovation. That's what makes unpredictability fun. Innovation, right? Because now people try to build things to predict. To add it to this context, I think was on my I had an earlier this year's webinar on Golden with God. I was speaking on the fact that when it comes to building career goals, many times we build around what we know. We When I ask what do you want to do, you think about human resource, you think about finance, you think about engineering, you think about fashion because it exists. Do you know that many years ago we probably had only one engineer in the world because somebody was moving into the field and there was no name. And maybe the person had to give it a name. What I'm trying to say is that the fear of the unknown, if turned around, should rather give you the ability to create what is not known. I don't know if I'm making sense. What I'm trying to say is that you don't fully know what you can be. And whilst you're afraid for the future, you're afraid because of what you know. But it could also be that what you should become, even the world doesn't know, how much more you. It could be that God wants to use you to create a field that does not exist, a field that you have to give it a name. So if all you're going to try to create will be based on HR, finance, accounting, think of every other thing that is trending right now, you could easily miss it. So, Blessing, I think, yeah, my word to that would just be that the fear of the unknown should be turned around to force you to create for a world that is not known. And that means you must be open to whatsoever that God wants to use you to do, even if that thing is unknown to the world and may only be known to you for just a while. I don't know if that makes sense. But maybe your job title hasn't been created. That's just what I'm trying to say. Maybe your job title hasn't been created and you have to create it. So don't copy everybody's job title: public speaker, writer, pharmacist. Yeah, that's what I, yeah. I don't know if that addresses your question, Blessed.
Yes, please, it does. Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, Samuel has his hand up. Mr. Samuel, please, we want to hear from you.
Okay, sure. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Elizabeth, for this brilliant presentation. I have just questions. I really like the presentation. Let me just say it quick since the time is almost up. So my first question is, if my boss doesn't recognize my potential, should I leave or stay to prove myself in the company? And then the second one too is with the personal branding. I noticed in Ghana, it looks like the people who make noise are being recognized in the company, and some of us want to join the bandwagon. So um, I wanted to know if in Ghana, yeah, we can make noise, but it looks like when you make a lot of noise about yourself, your personal branding, it gets annoying. So what's the best way we could get noticed at work without being annoying to other people? Thank you.
Hello, Miss Elizabeth. Thank you, Samuel, for the question. I think she's having some network challenges now, and so let's hope she gets back.
Hello?
Okay, Miss. Yeah. Please, did you hear his question?
I didn't hear the last part.
Okay,
Okay.
let me say it quickly. So my first question was, if my boss doesn't recognize my potential, should I leave the company or should I stay to prove myself in the company? And the second question was, with regards to the personal branding. It looks like in Ghana, most people make noise to get recognized at work, and I wanted to know what's it sometimes gets annoying. So what's the best way you can you can try to get noticed with your work and without being so annoying every time. You know, everyone says this guy's bragging skills. Yeah. Thank you.
Right, sure. All right, thanks to for that question. To the first question about potential. If your boss is not recognizing your potential, should you stay to prove it or should you leave? It's a very complicated question because there are a lot of things. First, if you are leaving, where are you leaving to? Right. I believe that exit should always be planned, except the case, of course, that is detrimental to your health, both your physical and your mental health. That's when you can make a quick exit. But if you are planning to leave, I think first of all that's also fine. But make sure that where you are going is also a place that is fully aligned to your career goals. Should you stay until you get a more lucrative opportunity? I would say stay if there's no harm being done to your health, because there might be multiple perspectives to your judgment. You might feel like you are putting in enough work for your boss to see, but maybe you're not putting it in the way that they should see. It's like love languages. You know, the same principle applies in friendship, in every kind of relationship. Don't forget, what you and your boss have is a relationship. It's a work relationship. It's a working relationship. So if you feel like he's not seeing it, two ways. It's either you are not putting it in the right way for him to see. And what's the right way? The right way is the way that he can receive, not necessarily the way you can send it. It's like communication. If I come onto this call speaking French, no matter how fluent I am in French, if everybody here does not understand French, I will tell you that I am communicating, but I'm not, because my end users or my receivers are not understanding. So my first question for that would be, can you go back to check what who are the people that he's recognizing or he's lauding their potential? Like, who are those guys that he tends to celebrate? What are they doing? Right? And then find the ethical, just in case they're not doing something right, you don't have to join them, but find the ethical principles in how they are communicating to your boss and probably do the same. And the last part of the question on, it's like everybody who makes noise is getting the, definitely noise catches attention. But the thing about personal branding is personal branding should never happen on just the surface level. So if you make the noise and you can't do the job, I don't call that personal branding. I call that lying or bragging, right? So personal branding is not just about who says I can do the job. It's about who says I can do the job and is really doing the job. And what should you do about that? I would say build your own personal brand too. I'm also someone who is not very intrigued. In fact, the whole LinkedIn, I'm thrilled to announce that. So what I, for one, did, if anyone here has looked at my profile, I make sure that my profile is unique to me. I'm one of those people that don't make a lot of posts. I mean, if you're looking at other like real LinkedIn influencers, at a point I was making one post in a quarter. At a point I was making one in a month. What I told myself was, it's more important what I write than how often I write. And so sometimes it takes me a while to develop an idea, put up a work, but I'm fine with it because I want it to be that every time anyone goes on my profile, they see what I truly stand for, right? So I would say that don't be carried away by those who blow their horns, make the noise, and have nothing and have no capability to do the job because they are short-lived in life. There's only an extent to which you can make your noise. When the money is supposed to come, they'll pay to who does the job, not who makes the noise. So there are still people on LinkedIn that are not making noise and they are making so much money. So let your focus be on, remember, I said career success is about learning and earning. Whoever is going to give you money for something will give you money for knowing how to do the job. Your responsibility is to put a good profile that helps them to identify you. And that will not be annoying for them. It will rather be helpful for them.
Wow.
I hope that
Don't
clarifies.
be moved. Yeah, don't be moved by the hype on LinkedIn. Sometimes you collapse when you get on LinkedIn. So you have another question in the comment section. Let me read that out. That is from Michael B. Michael B says, "Thank you very much, Elizabeth Mamiesie Ujua, for such an insightful presentation. My question is, how do employers typically assess the value of an individual's educational background and professional experiences? During your submission, you did mention that interviewers rarely ask about GPAs. So then, should we focus more on demonstrating practical skills, real world achievements, and other qualitative factors? What aspects of our profile ultimately carry the most weight? Thanks once again."
I love this question. I love this question so much. Thank you so much, Michael, for this. Yes. What goes into employer assessments? A lot of things go into it. Of course, your educational background, of course, your relevant experiences, and of course, your skill sets. Your skill set could be related to your background or not, and could also be related to your experience or not. But this is what I want you to see. At the end of the day, related to the question that I answered before now, the employer is looking for who does the job. And every assessment the employer would put up is to help them to be able to guess more accurately who can do the job. As a HR person, I always say that for every hiring we make, it's a risk, it's a probability. But the more experienced you are, or the main reason why we put up certain recruitment structures is that we want to reduce the chances of getting the wrong person. We want to make sure that when we go through the entire process, it's very likely that it's only those who can really do the job that should make it to the final interview or even make it to the offer stage. So, because the focus is on who does the job and not based on just the fact that I'm looking at, academic qualifications and all that, it means at the end of the day, the summary of your entire profile should be able to help you demonstrate that you can do the job. Now, when I said that they rarely asked about GPA, of course they saw the GPA on my CV, right? But they rarely asked about it doesn't mean that it was not important. It could have been that was part of the reason they called me to the interview. But now, like the question someone asked, if the GPA is the noise, the GPA is actually the noise, guys. To me, I feel it is the noise. Because your GPA only says one thing, that you're a great learner. What that tells me is that it's very likely that someone with a high GPA has the ability to learn quick. The person has the passion for what they've learned, and the person has the ability to plan. Because academic success doesn't come on a no. I don't think you'll find someone who has a very strong GPA who is not a good planner. They tend to be diligent people. So if I'm a human resource person, when I see your GPA, those are the deductions I make. So does this job need someone who has those characteristics? Oh yes, it does. I call it to the interview. Now, if you get the job, it's not so much of your GPA that gave you the job as to the permanent change in behavior that came in the process of you getting your GPA. Remember when I spoke about learning? That it's not just you being able to defend that you've done 10 courses. If I sit on a call with you, can I tell that you're a learned person? That I don't have to ask you, have you taken a course in, like, don't tell me you've taken a course in quality management. I should ask you, you sound very, very organized and methodological, right? What's your secret? That's when you should tell me that I took a course, in quality management, or I've done something in quality management. So what I'm just trying to say is that every part of your person, I would give them all equal chances to get to the job. Your GPA, your educational background, your professional experiences, but their only chance of increasing your probability of getting the job is how much they reflect in your lifestyle. And that's where you are able to now churn out those who make the noise. Beautiful CV, GPA, 10 masters, to those who actually do the job. And every time, those who do the job will always be placed above those who make the noise. So all of it matters. It's like that scripture that says, I'm trying to remember the scripture. It's said, I wish you do the latter without disregarding the former. Basically, there are things in life that you don't have to switch. They're not elimination, like they don't need substitution effect or elimination method. You need all. And so I'm not going to answer this question by saying which ultimately carries weight, because they all carry weight. I would rather say that get your good GPA without compromising on your character, and build your character whilst your GPA reflects it. Because I really believe that if you really work with the right habits, it will be impossible to get a low GPA. That's me talking. I really feel it will be impossible to get a low GPA. So at the end of the day, every part of it matters. There are even some job applications that when you even have a low GPA, they ask you what could be responsible for it. So that, there's a way you develop in life that when someone says, like, no, but how you speak on this call and all the things you've achieved, why do you have a low GPA? And some people will tell you outright on the call, I lost a family member. I was going through, because things happen a lot. Things happen in school. It's 4 years. A lot of things happen to people. And so it's not every time that GPA came about because they were unserious or they are bad people. Sometimes unique experiences happened in life that didn't give them the opportunity. Some people literally came to the exam room without paying their fees and how to use 5 minutes to write their paper. How do you explain why their GPA is low? Of course, you use 2 hours to write your paper, they use 5 minutes. Do you expect them to answer it fully? Right. So I'm just trying to say that at the end of the day, every part matters, but the part that helps you the most is your ability to let all of them reflect in the person that you are. So the reason they probably did not ask me about the GPA was because they saw everything in what I was speaking about. And so there was no need to say, wow, that's why I got a GPA. No, then it became obvious.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you very much for your response. I hope Michael has been well answered. I like the part that you mentioned that everything matters. So at the end of the day, your qualifications or the hype, the talk will invite you for an interview. You will go through the process. And after CV, you would find out whether you are made of gold or it is just, let's say, sand without cement. That is what will happen. And one thing I'll also add, which you already mentioned, was the fact that um, aside your qualifications and then your GPA, employers are also looking out for people who are willing and quick to learn, because some work come with changing path. And if that goes to happen, even with your experiences, are you willing to take on more, and are you willing to learn to take up the new challenges that come with the work? So you should be willing and ready to learn through the process. And so thank you so much. And we have exceeded the time by 12 minutes, and I think that is mainly because we also started 12 minutes late. I have some few points I jotted down for those who joined us probably late. Maybe this would help you through. And then also, I want to remind you that this webinar was organized by WorldLink HR. Yes, with Reggie Manuel Abe taking the face. Please do give us a follow on the social media platforms, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. So with a few points, I made about 11 points. Let me see. Um, the first one I noted down was that the higher the price, the higher the value they are looking for. That is for employers, and that as people who are looking to earn while learning, you should be able to build robust competence. And once you earn, there is earning in learning. If you know something and you don't earn from it, then it is not a career, it is probably a hobby. And then you cannot earn from something you have not learned. Career could be unintentional. Your career path could be unintentional, but career development, you should take it one day at a time, and you should be intentional about it. A properly planned career path only dies when you die. Your vision, your goal, and strategies must work. Now, learning should come with new skill, new knowledge, new language. Don't just go for the qualifications. At the end of the day, we should see the substance. Don't be so fixated on qualifications that you miss out on learning. And then we spoke about the 12 career mistakes. And one part I liked about that was that when you're starting out your career, don't place financial rewards over experience. Also, in this phase where, there are a lot of jobs and people are also declining on jobs, unemployment and all that, you should have an entrepreneurial mindset. Look out to impact the world with the good place in you. Thank you so much, Miss Elizabeth. You can find Miss Elizabeth on YouTube, on LinkedIn, and then on Instagram as well. You can give her a follow, and then you can be waiting for a quarterly LinkedIn update so you can also learn from that. Thank you so much, and thank you all for joining us. If Reggie is on the line and you have some words for us before we depart, maybe you can do that now.
Hello, Linda. Can you hear me? Hello, Linda.
Yes, please, we can.
Hello,
Yes, please, I
Linda.
can hear you.
Oh, okay. So,
Hello, Reggie. I can hear
okay.
you.
So I would like to personally, yes. Oh, okay. I would like to personally say thank you so much to Elizabeth for handling our invitation. Personally, I was writing down my notes, and what I plan on doing is that I'm going to listen to the session again. Like I'm going to like repeat it. I'm going to use it like in my quiet time. But it's very deep, and I'm also urging I'm also urging the rest of the people to, I mean, actually go through it, like listen to it when you are less busy. Try and I mean listen to it. Like I mean, listen to the first 10 minutes, relax, think about it. Listen to the second 10 minutes, relax, think about it, and your life is going to be like your life is going to change. I would also thank all the people on the call. um, I'll urge you all to follow our social media platform, and I hope to get Madam Elizabeth back again here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you once more, our wonderful speaker, our learned speaker, Miss Elizabeth. We hope to see you here again to share more nuggets with us. And thank you all for
Yeah.
joining. My name is Linda Williamson Ishen. Good night. Bye.
Right. Thank you. Thank you all so much too. Bye.
Thank you. Good night.